Hi, I want to show you how to create a matrix visual using the Seaborn library. This will allow us to see multiple plots on rows and columns. It's a great time to start this because it's at the end of the year, so we can start visualizing seasons and other trends across hours. So essentially, we're going to be making a visual pivot table. So let's get started. I've loaded in the essential libraries such as Pandas, saved it as PD, NumPy, Seaborn, Matplotlib. I've imported warnings because I wanted to filter out any of the warnings, and you can see that using the filter warning and ignore. I'm looking at a data set, a yearly data set of web data with visits and page views and conversions, with the dimensions, the date, the hour, the month, day of week, season, and device. So first, let's create a bar plot using Seaborn. So I'm just going to use the Seaborn variable and use bar plot. And then for our x-axis, let's use hour. And for our y-axis, let's use visits. And let's just visualize that. Oh, and we need to add the data, and our data is DF. Now we should be able to visualize that. We can see the visits peak somewhere around 10 o'clock, and they start to increase after 6 and then slowly decline. Now we want to be able to map that to a column and a row and then use different dimensions. So first, to create the matrix, let's use SNS, and we're going to use something called a Facet grid. So that's going to create the grid for us. And then I'm going to hit Shift-Tab to show you that we need to specify the data, and then we need to tell it a row and a column that we're using. So we know our data is DF. Column, for our column, how about we use device? And if I run that, you'll be able to see we have a grid where we have device. And we have two devices, mobile phone and desktop. So we have our first, and it's going to split this data by mobile and device. So before we add our row, let's map this bar plot to these two visuals. So I'm going to save that grid as grid. Then I'm going to now use that variable map. And what do I want to map? I want to map a bar plot. So you need to tell it bar plot. And then I need to specify that I want the hour and I want visits. And let's hit enter and see what happens. Oops. So we have an error. Looks like I spelled visits wrong. We need a capital V for visits. So now you can see that I've mapped this by visits, and it's broken up by device. So we can see the mobile phone and the desktop there. We can change the aspect and the height while we're here. So, oops. Let's change the height in our Facet grid to, let's say 2.5. And then let's change the aspect to 2.5. Let's run that. Now we can see that a little bit better. So we have split this up by columns. Now we can go back up to our row. Now we can go back up to the grid and add a row to our columns. So right after column here, I'm going to add a row. And we can look at our data set and see that we have day of week here. So we can now add day of week there. So I'm going to put day of week as our row, and to make sure I have enough size, I'm going to put plt.figure, and then I'm going to change the figure size to, let's say, 16 by 30. This needs to be equal. All right, and let's see if we got everything. Nope, let's run that. We have fig size is spelled wrong. So now you can see that we have each day of week. If you look, day of week is Wednesday. And then we have Thursday, Friday. We have Saturday, and this is by the mobile phone. So each one of these is going to show you where our data is. And of course, it's better to have the order the way we want. So we can change the order, and by adding that order to our map. So of course, if you wanted this in a particular order where you have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as your column, you can come back up to this part and you hit Shift Tab, and you can set the column order here, as you see. So if we go here and we go to our grid and we add column order equals, and then we pass it a list, that should do it. I run that. Column order. Let's get rid of this. Let it run. Oh, and not column. I made a mistake there. We are specifying the row order, not the column order. Now you can see that we start with Monday, we go to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and we can see the trend. So we can see definitely Sunday's a weekday for us, and the hour. And of course, you can further stylize your plot. Maybe here you want to change the alpha setting or the colors. So I'm going to make this a little bit more transparent just because I think it looks better. I run that again. So now we can see that in that fashion. So I'm going to quickly do another one. We can just copy and paste this. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to change the bar plot to a line plot. And then I'll keep the column for devices. And then instead of day of week, I'm going to use seasons for my row. And then in my line plot, I want to see day of week. And then visits. And then now we don't need this row order because it's no longer, we're using seasons for the row. So I'm going to get rid of this. And I am going to run this. And it looks like we have an error, season instead of seasons. And we run that. So now we can see those line plots by day of week. And you can see the line plot here. And the first thing you can notice is that Friday starts everything. So let's change the order of these particular elements on the x-axis. Now we don't change that on our facet grid because this is actually a part of the graph. So we will go here, and then if I press Shift Tab, we're going to use the same order from here. So I'm just going to copy this because it's going to give us the day of week order. And this time we add this to our map, and I don't need to specify the row, I just need the order. Oh, we can't use so let's change this back to a bar plot. Doesn't look like it likes the line plot in changing the order. So if I change that back to a bar plot, now we can see that facet grid, and we can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday together. It doesn't look like it likes the line plot with the order. But you can see that we have the season here. So we have winter, spring, summer, and fall. And we can see when the day of the weeks change depending on the season and by device. Of course, you can add more here. You might want to see this instead of device here. You might want to see a different dimension. But that's a quick way to add a grid or matrix visual to look at seasonality in your data. I hope that helps.